On November 15, 2025, the United States Supreme Court issued a decision that will shape the nation's future. In a landmark ruling, the court struck down President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs, declaring that only Congress has the authority to tax Americans. This case, Trump v. VOS Selections, challenged the president's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to impose new taxes on imports. The court found this an overreach of presidential power, reinforcing the checks and balances at the heart of American democracy. For businesses and families burdened by higher prices, this ruling marks a turning point. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods, and their costs are often passed on to consumers. The court's decision could soon mean lower prices for American families and more stability for businesses. Internationally, the ruling signals a reset in trade relations, potentially easing tensions with countries like Canada, Mexico, and China. The decision is a major event for the economy and global trade, watched closely by leaders and business owners worldwide. The rules of trade have been fundamentally reset. The nation now waits to see what comes next. When President Trump returned to office in 2025, he made trade a top priority, arguing that the U.S. was being treated unfairly. He imposed a 10% reciprocal tariff on many countries and a 20% fentanyl tariff on Canada, China, and Mexico, aiming to pressure them on drug trafficking. Trump used IEEPA to justify these actions, calling the trade deficit and fentanyl crisis national emergencies. He claimed tariffs would protect American jobs and generate revenue, nearly $195 billion in 2025 alone. Some of this money was proposed for direct payments to families and to reduce the national debt. Critics argued the tariffs were paid by American importers, not foreign countries, raising costs for consumers and businesses. The unpredictable, shifting tariffs created chaos for companies, fueling frustration and legal challenges. Ultimately, hundreds of businesses sued, arguing the president had overstepped his authority. The legal battle over tariffs escalated to the Supreme Court after lower courts sided with businesses challenging the president's authority. The case centered on whether the president could use emergency powers to impose what were essentially taxes, powers the Constitution reserves for Congress. During oral arguments, justices from across the ideological spectrum expressed skepticism about the administration's position. Chief Justice Roberts questioned if tariffs weren't simply taxes by another name. Justice Gorsuch warned that allowing this would permanently shift power from Congress to the president. The justices worried about setting a precedent where any president could declare an emergency and impose new taxes unilaterally. Public and expert opinion shifted sharply after the hearing, with odds of a Trump victory plummeting. The court's questions signaled a strong intent to reinforce Congress's traditional role in taxation and trade. The stage was set for a historic decision on the separation of powers. The outcome would define the limits of presidential authority for years to come. The nation awaited the verdict. The Supreme Court's decision was rooted in a core constitutional principle: only Congress can levy taxes. The founders, wary of unchecked power, gave the power to tax to the legislative branch, ensuring accountability to the people. The president's lawyers argued tariffs were a tool of foreign policy, not taxes, and that IEEPA granted broad authority in emergencies. The court disagreed, finding that tariffs functioned as taxes and could not bypass Congress. Allowing the president to declare emergencies and impose taxes would undermine checks and balances. The court emphasized that the power of the purse is Congress's most fundamental role and cannot be delegated. The ruling clarifies that while the president has significant foreign policy powers, creating taxes is not one of them. If tariffs are needed, the president must work with Congress to pass a law. Trump v. VOS Selections doesn't ban tariffs, but ensures they follow the constitutional process. The decision reaffirms no taxation without representation. In America, that representation happens through Congress. The Trump tariffs had real consequences for American businesses, especially small and medium-sized ones. Companies importing goods paid the tariffs, not foreign governments, forcing them to absorb costs or raise prices. Deer Stags, a shoe importer, paid over $1 million in extra tariffs. Green Bar Distillery lost 10% of its profits to new taxes. These costs meant fewer jobs, delayed investments, and higher prices for consumers. Over 700 small businesses formed the We Pay the Tariffs coalition to highlight the damage. Constant changes, over 40 tariff rate adjustments in 2025, created chaos for supply chains and planning. The government collected nearly $195 billion in tariff revenue, but businesses saw it as a massive transfer from the private sector to the government. Many companies had to lay off workers or cancel projects. The Supreme Court's decision is a lifeline, offering hope for recovery. For these businesses, it's not just a legal win, it's a chance to rebuild. With the tariffs struck down, businesses now want refunds for the hundreds of billions collected. In theory, detailed customs records should make refunds straightforward. Past programs like the Generalized System of Preferences saw similar refunds issued. But the scale here is unprecedented. Hundreds of billions, millions of transactions, and frequent rate changes. Customs agencies face a massive paperwork challenge, and verifying claims could take years. Even the Supreme Court justices raised concerns about the logistics of such a large refund program. While the legal right to refunds is clear, the practical process is daunting. Businesses are hopeful, but bracing for a long wait. The fight for refunds may become the next major chapter in this story. The outcome will affect thousands of companies nationwide. The Supreme Court's decision is more than a trade policy ruling. It's a statement about the balance of power in America. By confirming that only Congress can create taxes and tariffs, the court set a major precedent limiting presidential power. This brings stability for businesses, ending the uncertainty of sudden tariff changes. Companies can now plan ahead, knowing new tariffs require congressional approval. Lower costs for businesses could mean more jobs, higher wages, and new investments. For families, the end of tariffs may soon bring lower prices on everyday goods. The ruling could help ease inflation and stretch household budgets. The decision forces the executive and legislative branches to collaborate on economic policy, strengthening democracy. It marks a return to stability and the rule of law in trade policy. This landmark case will stand as a reminder of the enduring strength of the Constitution.